Welcome to Fantasy Football Aces. It's your boy William Wolf. I'm back, and today I have an episode about some more sleepers. And today we're going to talk about running back sleepers. 5 guys that you can get late, because when it's late, it's great. Let's go. The 5 running backs I want to talk about today are guys that you're going to add at the flex position. These are guys that you're going to build your team up with high priced quarterbacks, like the 5 quarterbacks we discussed in the other episode. We're going to build it with maybe a Travis Kelce or maybe some really high priced running backs. This is the type of guys that you're going to get late for a small allocation of money in salary cap or a really late round draft pick, but you're spending all your other picks on guys that are more expensive at other positions. Maybe you're a wide receiver guy. Maybe you're not following my philosophy. Maybe that you're going to spend your first 5 or 6 rounds on those kind of players. Now I'm going into my draft tomorrow, my $2,000 salary cap draft in the Diamond League, and I plan to get one of these guys late as my flex. I'm going to spend some extra money to get one of my elite quarterbacks, unless I end up getting Fields or Lamar Jackson at a discount. I'm going to spend the extra dollar at the premium to get Travis Kelce this year. I want the number 1 tight end. I want that disparity at that position. I'm going to go after Nick Chubb as my RB1. I'm going to go after Jahmyr Gibbs as my RB2. And then I'm gonna allocate a small amount of money to wide receivers that I think are of value late that I can get for a cheaper price in salary cap. And also, my flex position is going to be one of these 5 running backs. Let's start it off at number 5, and there's no order here, and that is James Cook. Now, his price tag has went up a little bit since I put thought to this video, but he's still a guy that you can get late who can have an enormous season. I did an episode earlier this year on how I compare him to being this year's Ramondre Stevenson, a guy you can get for $10 or $11, and he can win you a fantasy football league. Well, this particular player, he's moving up on the ADP draft boards. He's about $19 to $20 in salary cap now, but he's still of immense value. This is the kind of player that can take over the backfield if Damian Harris gets hurt. A 3-down horse, a guy who could catch the ball out of the backfield in one of the best offenses in the NFL. He can do it all. He can run routes out of the backfield. I believe in his second year, they're going to trust him on 3rd down to block for Josh Allen. We know that he can run the ball on 1st and 2nd down. Just check my other video on him being compared to Ramondre Stevenson. This guy is like Dalvin Cook, his brother, and who knows, he could end up being the better version. That is yet to be seen. Let's go to number 4, and that's my favorite football team, the Chicago Bears, Khalil Herbert. Now, Khalil Herbert is in a situation where he has been a backup. David Montgomery is out the door. He's over in Detroit now. He's going to be backing up Jahmyr Gibbs. And we got Khalil Herbert, who, a lot of people didn't look to as a number 1 running back. But guess what? There's nobody else in town. They drafted the young kid to be his backup. They brought in Deontay Foreman from Carolina to be his backup. And it appears from a distance that it's probably going to be somewhat of a 3 running back committee. But I believe that Khalil Herbert is going to get 70% snap share in this group. I believe if he doesn't get injured, Khalil Herbert could be your number 1 steal in all of fantasy football. This is an offensive line that they spent a 1st-round pick on right. He was injured at the moment, but he will be back. They've revamped this offensive line. I believe bringing in DJ Moore brings pressure off the defenses from bringing people to stop the run. They always have to worry about Justin Fields on the read option. What happens? Khalil Herbert leads the NFL in rushes per carry at 5.6 or somewhat like that. And he could be an absolute star this year if he's unleashed. We saw what he did in the preseason. He took a 60-yard screen to the house. This is things that he can do for the Bears all year. The attention is going to be on Justin Fields. They're going to want to stop him from running and scrambling. I think that Herbert has an opportunity to become an absolute star this year. You're talking about a guy in salary cap you can get for less than $7. In ADP snake drafts, you can get him in the late 7th rounds. I believe this is the best running back in all of fantasy football that you can get late who can truly be an RB1. And what I mean by that is an RB1 for their team. A guy who could possibly be a 3-down back. A guy who is going to get 70% snap share. If you get a guy like that for that late in a draft in ADP snake or salary cap, this is the kind of flex that wins you a league because it gives you the opportunity to spend money or spend your early draft picks on better players in the early rounds. Let's move on to number 3, and that's Jeff Wilson Jr. And you could put Raheem Mostert in that group. Let's just call them a group. You're talking about two guys, Jeff Wilson Jr. and Raheem Mostert, that are in one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL. And if we learned anything from last year, we know that Tua and company, they want to throw the ball a lot. I mean, why wouldn't they, right? They got Waddle and Tyreek Hill out there. They're going to be throwing and slinging that ball as much as they possibly can. But that brings pressure off the running backs. And in that zone running back scheme, the scheme from San Francisco, these guys can eat. Raheem Mostert, he looked good last year. He's old, but he still looked good. And when Jeff Wilson Jr. came over, he looked even better. And he looked like the RB1. He's banged up a little bit now. That's driving his ADP even lower than what it already is. He's going to be very, very cheap in salary cap fantasy football drafts. This is a guy you can get super late and in one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL as an RB1. Even if he's in a 50-50 timeshare, the value that you're getting from getting this guy that late can absolutely win you a fantasy football league. I don't know anybody that didn't want Jeff Wilson Jr. in their lineup last year in those last 5 or 6 weeks of the year. He was a steal. Anybody who had him just laying around on their bench when he got traded over to Miami, they hit a gold mine because he automatically boosted your team up tremendously. And we're only aiming for this guy to be your flex or a guy who can fill in through buys. Now let's move on to number 2. And it is just absolutely mind-boggling how this guy is so low on ADPs and in salary cap. I'm definitely going to target this guy if I don't get Jalen Hurts as my quarterback because I don't stack on the same team. But that is DeAndre Swift. I believe that his value is down because the way he burned people last year. But people forget this kid is only 24 years old. He's coming into a new offense with the best offensive line in the NFL, with 2 unbelievable number 1 wide receivers pushing the defense back. You got to respect A.J. Brown and Javonte Smith. You got the best offensive line in the NFL. This guy's talent, DeAndre Swift, was a guy that I last year was targeting in my draft for $50 in salary cap, meaning he was a 2nd-round pick last year. Now he goes over to Philadelphia, a little bit better offensive line than Detroit because Detroit has one of the best offensive lines in the NFL as well, but much better receivers and also a much better quarterback, meaning the pressure is not going to be on DeAndre Swift. I can't figure out why he's so low on ADP and salary cap drafts as far as is where his value is. I know people are concerned about Gainwell being the running back RB1 there. I know they bought in Penny from Seattle. And I know a lot of people think that this could be a 3-way committee because that's kind of what Philadelphia has done. But just look at kind of year that Miles Sanders had last year. DeAndre Swift's a much talented more running back than Miles Sanders. And I know that's a little subjective, but I mean, if you turn on the tape, going even back to Georgia, this Swift kid is unbelievable. I think that people are going to look back at this draft and they're going to be scratching their head on how this guy was only between $5 and $10 in salary cap up until the low teens in a late 7th, 8th round, 9th round pick in snake drafts. I know all these other guys I'm naming, I've said that they could be possibly the biggest steal in the draft, but this guy falls in that same category. I'd put him and Khalil Herbert as the two dark horses for their value to be the biggest steals in all of fantasy football. I don't think that there's any way that DeAndre Swift doesn't get a 60% snap share with the talent that he has over Gainwell. I don't think there's rumors Penny doesn't even make the team at this point, and I think that's because Swift has been looking that good. Just turn on the tape and look at these preseason games and the moves that he's making. If that kid can stay healthy, because like I said, he burned people last year, and I don't know what Detroit was doing out there with him. And I know he was hurt, but this could be a huge year for DeAndre Swift. And at number 1, and like I said, there is no order here, and that is a guy I drafted last year for a very high price tag and got burned, and that is Javonte Williams. Now, if you look at advanced analytics, Javonte's break tackle rate, run after contact, and his, elusiveness, his juke rate, and all those different things, you're talking about a guy that was off the charts going into last year. Anybody that's a diehard fantasy guy was targeting Javonte Williams. We all thought that was going to be an amazing offense with Russell Wilson coming in town, Sutton and Judy out wide. Obviously, Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, and with a pretty good offensive line. There was no reason that team didn't ball out last year, frankly, and they didn't. They were the worst team in the NFL as far as what we expected, right? Obviously, Javonte tore 3 ligaments, and he is on a fast track to be back in the NFL. It appears that he is already playing. Now, what I would say is they brought in Pirine from Cincinnati, and that guy is a very good running back. They're going to ease Javonte in. So I wouldn't expect Javonte to just ball out for your team right away. But you're talking about a guy you can get for the high teens in salary cap. And in a snake draft, you can get him in the middle rounds. Now, you can make an argument there's better value in those middle rounds than going after Javonte Williams, but this is the kind of talent, the kind of kid, the kind of player that if he gets completely healthy in a Sean Payton offense, a guy who we saw what he did with Mark Ingram and Kamara in the past, and maybe he deploys these 2 backs like that in a similar fashion, Javonte could do it all. He could do it all. He can catch the ball out of the backfield as well. You're talking about a guy, if you're looking into week 6 and on, I'd say another month or 2 in when he starts to be like maybe 3, by week 9. I know that sounds like it's a far distance away. A guy that could be fully healthy in a year out of his surgeries. I think that Javonte Williams can be, an RB1 in fantasy from week 9 on. Now, obviously, that would transition and translate into an RB2, maybe a back-end RB2, and the whole season. But if you're looking at a playoff push and a guy that you can get late, who we're just looking at as to be our flex anyways, Javonte Williams could be an absolute steal. That's my top 5 sleeper running backs this year. I've done a ton of mock drafts. I've seen all 5 of these guys available late. When you see these kind of players that are that good and with that much value, it's easy to build a team around them because you can formulate your draft and start going after guys you like better in the early rounds. You can go after that high-priced quarterback. You can go after that high-priced tight end because you know you can get these guys late. That'll do it for Fantasy Football Aces. I'll see y'all boys on the next time. Subscribe, like the video, share the video. Show your boy some love, man. I'm giving out sauce. And we're going to win championships, and we're going to keep doing this. And I'm going to roll this thing. 2023 we launch, but we're not stopping. Let's go. Let's get it.